Oh baby, Fate Strange Fake is back for episode 2, and in this video we're going to break down and analyze everything that went on in this episode. And stick around to the end as I'll be addressing comments from last week's video in regards to my opening rant, which ended up ruffling quite a few feathers. With that out of the way, we've got a lot to get into with this episode, including my response to those comments, so let's jump in. Gamer Subs is the best way to support me. Using code CTactics, you get 10% off all of your orders. Whether it's waifu cups, flavors, and caffeine, or caffeine-free, or merchandise, which I highly recommend their t-shirts, you really cannot go wrong with Gamer Subs. Every time you use my code, it gives me a commission, which supports me directly. Alright, so we pick up from episode 1, where we see Arthur Pendragon has now been detained for questioning. Now, I have to say, there is nothing more American than a man in a suit of armor being detained for questioning. I love how unwitting he is. He's just like, yeah, call me Saber. As if everyone knows what a servant is. We see Orlando Reeves, one of the masters in this fabricated war, and a hot secretary. We see that while Saber is quite confident, the same cannot be said for Ayaka, who is distressed and fatigued. And to top it off, her memories are muddled due to some kind of magecraft, most likely because of her captors and maybe having something to do with those weird visions. And to top things off, they presume she is some sort of mage possibly sent by the Ainsburns, which is an interesting observation. The framing of Ayaka is quite odd to me, because on one hand she has the naivete that made characters like Shiro so compelling, and in others, she's different. This is owed to how innocent her appearance looks, the fact she is in a foreign land she doesn't know anything about, amongst other obvious examples. This to me is the perfect foundation for a main character in Fate, and just works so well, and honestly I think is a little required in a series like this. Now that being said, I think based on initial first impressions, I like her much more than Fujimaru or Emiya at this point. Not that I think she's already a better character, that's sort of a different statement. And of course she has much more to prove in that regard, but because she's likable and affable. Her disorientation within the context of the story leaves room for us to be endeared to her immediately. This is when we... freaking alarms, man. Ruining everything! This is when we are introduced to a returning new old favorite, the Ainsburns homunculus, who has now entered Snowfield. And my god, is this a Fate anime, because their waifu game is on point. They figure, based on the information they have now, that she probably doesn't know much just yet. On top of that, Reeves orders them not to drop surveillance on these two or on Castor, who recently requested them to let him play in a casino, denying it because the absurdity of the moment, while we see Gilgamesh at a casino. Oh my lord, I cannot explain my excitement, man. This series is like visiting an old friend. This is just, oh my god, I love this. A girl bumps into a woman who is introduced as Tinya, I think it's Tinya Chelk. Now, I like this character right off the bat because while similar in a way to Ayaka, Tinya, I hope I'm really pronouncing that right. Put in the comments of how to phonetically pronounce this. Tinya is completely naive to the world because of her age, and thus Gilgamesh thinks that it is important to see the world for all of its worth at that young age. And of course we do see his ego come into play, as he says while the world is extravagant, it still pales in comparison to someone like him. I also like that Tinya is a character of color, as you don't often see that in Japanese animation, so she stands out visually from the cast of already pretty diverse looking masters and servants. And we see that Tinya is impressionable, listening to all of what he has to say in awe. Not really understanding it, I presume, but understanding, I guess, the lesson. But even so, Gil tries to tell her not to even trust his word, a rare moment of humility for his character for sure. I think this is probably like the good older Gilgamesh that we saw in Babylonia, but she tells her to experience the world through her own perception. But there is still much more to his lessons. She is warned by him that to be his master, that she will need to dig deep within herself and bring out and muster up what is waiting deep inside of her. I like this characterization a lot, and felt that Gil here explained really well in so few words that Tinya is and will be subjected to the war in all of its dazzling ways, and also test her. It will demand her evolution into a fine magus and to discard all of her naive and childish perceptions that she still has at that age. But she isn't just told that it will be only that on their journey. It will also be full of wonder, and so he's expressing to her this fine line between wonder and adventure, and also responsibility and the cost of that burden. Now at the table, Gil puts in his bet only to be challenged by the priest we are introduced to in the after credits scene for episode 1. And he wins, showing up Gil and also revealing that he knows who he is. Gil, with his cockiness shining through for a split moment, asks the mongrel's name, to which he is introduced as Hansa Cervantes, the supervisor of the Holy Grail War. My God.
This anime is awesome!
As for the interrogation, it is going? Arthur essentially rebuffs any of the good cop, bad cop shtick and is like, yeah, I'm not the problem. Don't kill that man. And on top of that, you guys should figure out how to repair the opera house. Also, let me show you a trick. And he disappears right there. And man, I have to say, I love Saber already because he is like a righteous good boy. He then reappears, basically telling them to come up with a good idea for them to escape because by dawn, he will no longer comply. I love the wink here too. He's just so totes, I can't even. Reeves tells his secretary to hypnotize the three officers inside, and just as that is said, yet another hottie shows up. I can't. This guy gets all of these attractive women, and I'm here making YouTube videos, getting no attractive women. She tells me there is a priest from the church here to meet with him. We then switch perspectives to Ayaka, who is in her cell, haunted by these suspenseful visions of someone in red watching them as if she is brought down to the station. Apparently, I was told by my editor, who knows even more Fate lore than I, that this is somehow tied to Fate Hollow Ataraxia, the sequel to Fate Stay Night. But that's all I've been told thus far, and that's all I know. Just as she's fed up with these visions, Saber appears in her cell, scaring her. Here she is told that since she is not his master and has no interest in the Grail War, that she doesn't want to be meddled with. But Saber says that through her logic, this allows him to meddle with her all he wants to his heart's content. Aww. In terms of writing, I think this is setting Ayaka up as this troubled soul, someone who needs a partner in her life to catch her when she's down. And of course, a handsome, chivalrous man will do the job. Indeed it will. I find this kind of character refreshing, even if it is a bit safe, because it's just nice to see people communicate in a way such as this. It's a bit of a tease, attraction with just the right amount of tension. It appeals to both men and women alike, and it's nice. It feels like a realistic approach, and it is nice. I mean, this is nice. Saber tells her that she has no choice in the matter because of the spell implanted within her tattoo. Honestly, I'm gonna say it. I want a Fate tattoo just like this. I know I'm a normie! Maybe I'll get one this year, who knows? Anyways, they're still connected by fate because of the circuits within her being tied directly to the both of them. And once again, is unrelenting, telling her he will save her in myriad ways, and that his true name will not be revealed, but would like to know hers. Basically, Ayaka is stuck with Saber and is in the war whether she likes it or not. Great scene, really like these two as our main duo. Really good stuff. Reeves meets with Hansa. Very smartly doesn't tell Hansa anything he doesn't have to, but he knows everything, including the 30 people he's already detained. But it matters not, as Reeves already has Hansa cornered, but warns him this is foolish to make enemies of the church. Even still, Hansa is quite confident in his position even when surrounded. Essentially, this was a lot of posturing, but also establishing that both Reeves and Hansa are on equal grounds. A phone call interrupts Castor, calling Reeves even when he shouldn't know these numbers. He warns of an incoming servant as it breaks through their magical barriers. It's actually the same woman from episode 1, so yay, hot women. Likely, she's coming to recapture Saber or something. We find out, pretty much. Speaking of, Saber breaks Ayaka out of their jail. He starts to talk to himself. Ayaka asks about it, but Saber simply says to ignore it as he's talking to himself. Nope.
Nope. I don't believe that one for a second.
My first theory is that he didn't come here alone and that 2 servants were summoned. We'll see how those dominoes fall through. Beyond that, I got no clue. We see Reeves attack the servant, who is quite powerful, and notices that they're all noble phantasms. She uses Zabanya to release these tendrils of red and black magic, revealing herself to be none other than Assassin. So, you know for sure this woman is probably the first to die as she is attacked on all fronts. Oh, the fate of Assassin. So tragic. So she says the same thing twice, and despite being cornered, is able to attack Reeves directly, forcing him to show off his surprising agility, but also how badass his hot secretary is. I don't know what that noise was. I just made a noise. She reveals she has no master and does not seek the Holy Grail. In fact, she is here to destroy it. Ooh, shades of Vimeo? This then leads to the reveal of a totally not Tsukihime character who immediately cuts off the arm of one of Reeves' men without anyone even seeing it or noticing it, including the man. This guy then bites into his own weapon and eats it as he introduces himself as Jester Carter. Cartier, the master of assassin and a dead apostle. Basically, this is like a vampire, and their involvement in fate really isn't that rare, but most people will know it primarily from lunar legend Tsukihime, which is the visual novel which predates Fate Stay Night within the same universe, and very good. You should probably play it. There's a remaster out already if you didn't know. He reveals that the master she thought she killed by destroying his heart was him. It's been him. He will continue to be him, as he ends up growing an intense obsession with her, proclaiming he is madly in love. I am too, if I'm being honest. He uses his command cell on his stomach, which is a really interesting place, to command Assassin to transport to a location as far away from the city as possible, and she must obey, so she does. Jester then single-handedly defends against all of Reeves' men and women, hot women, with effortlessness. This guy, he cray-cray. He tells Reeves he doesn't even rely on concepts such as his own power, and thus he is not invaluable, as this is the true thing that men seek over power. This was fantastic writing. It's an interesting ideology because we see that many men grasp towards power in our own world every day, personally and otherwise. Even we do at points in our own lives because having some kind of power is important. However, what Jester implies is that the root that goes before that concept of power is invaluable. That is a human or entity. The one thing that is most important is being so valuable that everyone cannot justify denying you anything. And that is what leads to true power and makes a man more, maybe the word would be authentic, I'm not sure, than say a 2-bit person focusing only on what power they can be obtained or grasp at. And because of that, it gets rid of that feeling of dirtiness which comes with chasing power and makes it more concrete too. It's an interesting line that makes Jester much more than just a crazy maniac dead apostle. He truly has a rhyme to his reason, to his malreason, to his madness. Okay, well, to summarize, I think this episode was quite good at introducing some of our key players in this story. Reeves clearly has something he is vying for, which seems to be power, and Jester perfectly counterbalances that with his crazed but reasonable madness. That being said, Hansa sits in between the two of them as a wild card, a neutral figure that cares not for any side, but almost someone who can just as easily prove everything wrong with a third opinion. If you want to simplify it to those means, I also have nothing but good things to say about Saber and Ayaka, and think they're your perfect quintessential Fate Master and Servant that also has a tried and true mystery in regards to Saber and his true identity. Who was he talking to? Who was he talking to? Just tell us! And we get spatterings of factions like the Einsburns, Assassin Skulls, Gilgamesh with Teenage Chalk. So far, I think this episode remains consistent with the previous two, and once again, it all seems good so far. I hope they keep it up. And honestly, I don't doubt they will. Alright, so the part of the video you probably are going to have the most opinions about. My editor suggested that I take some of the more interesting comments in regards to last week's video, which were in response to my opening rant. I was told some of them were very unhappy with some of the things I had to say, amongst other types of various sentiments. It's the internet, what are you gonna do? So, I'm braving my mental health for this, so wish me luck, mi amigos, and give me that thumbs up. So, I'm just gonna splay the comments and talk about it because I don't want to edit this second half of the video because it's long. So, first comment here is fascinating. Their argument is that it is unfair to reduce Fate Grand Order to a cash grab because it allowed for so much expansion of the franchise and does a disservice to those who haven't read it. They also state that it is because of Demon Slayer that we've not gotten more Fate content, and that basically there's more reasons to some of the things I said. Now let's be real here for a moment. I've not done a single disservice to Fate Grand Order, the mobile game. None. The very same mobile game, which didn't even have a pity system until 2022, the same mobile game which is known for its scammy and casino-like addictive gacha systems which require you to play hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of the game over and over and over and over to get drop-fed bits of content and story. Comments like this suggest that Fate Grand Order is some misunderstood gem, and that if some people would just look past that upfront, blatant greed and corruption, that you unlock some sort of hidden potential only those who spend hundreds of hours and hundreds of dollars a month can see. Let me be clear. This doesn't take away from how good Nasu's writing for Fate Grand Order is, but to get to that point, you have to subject yourself to tens or even hundreds of hours to even get to the point where you gain access to Nasu's story that he wrote. And once you get there, yes, you only get drip-fed little bits between long battles with sections of stories you are forced to replay constantly. That's not good game design. That's good waste of time to keep you hooked on the carrot so you don't look above to see the stick. To me, if there is a story that is so good that everyone needs to experience, that does not mean it justifies you being exposed to gambling. I don't want to support a system blindly just because it did a couple things right. A few good things here and there doesn't erase the years of abuse, manipulation, and greed. You don't need Fate Grand Order to create a lore and a history for a franchise. You don't need Fate Grand Order to expand the universe, because the truth is that Fate Grand Order was and has never been good and was never needed. The good aspects were and always will be in spite of the game's mere existence. Yeah, Nasu's writing is really great, but riddle me this. Why must I tolerate gambling and manipulation of my brain chemistry, cobbled up by some scientists in a lab trying to make me cough up my hard-earned cash, the money of which will go to shareholders who are making your life worse? Please understand that I respect these commenters' opinions, all of them. I do not, however, respect the corporations which manipulate them or me into buying stuff that is clearly not good for people in the long term. Also, stuff that's just basically just really low quality. I'm not spending stuff on low quality. We got Amazon for that, buddy. All right, so this comment, to me nailed my sentiments, and I was glad to see that someone actually agrees with me on this. It's been 11 years since Unlimited Blade Works. It's been 5 years, going on 6, since the final Heaven's Feel movie. How many since Fate Apocrypha? 2017? What? Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia is an incredible anime worth every brain cell you can muster to pay attention to. Came out in 2019. The point of last week's video is really to explain the divide in communication between corporation and fan, whose currency is given in the form of physical currency and attention, both being highly important in this day and age. I'm also glad they said Fate Samurai Remnant didn't do it for them. And while I've not played the game yet, and actually do wish to on some level, and no, that doesn't disprove my point, because if I, the Fate fan who made a 1-hour review of the Fate Root visual novel, isn't interested that much, and if my editor, who is what I would call a Type Moon guru, thought it was meh, then it would be far-fetched to say that the current output, at the very least, is not enough. But I am sure this game is awesome, and to those who love it, we must separate, though, personal preference and personal love of something and the hard reality and, what? The T word, truth. They did not promote Fate Strange Fake at their yearly event. Why? They have not released Fate Stay Night, Fate Route. Why? Why haven't they released Tsukihime adapting at least the Arcwader CL route in a 24-episode series? Why? They didn't promote the new Fate Extra game. We didn't hear about anything for Red Garden for years. MiHoYo 2? Anyone? And let's not even mention the projects which were announced a long time ago and never even officially canceled. Girls Work poster, anime poster thing, editor thing, majig, script suggested I say it, and I freaked it up. The point is that I'm saying these are home runs waiting to happen that haven't even been attempted. Simply put, Aniplex have mismanaged the promotion of Fate Strange Fake. Full stop. On top of that, the excuse that Ufotable is stuck working on Demon Slayer isn't it either. You don't need Ufotable. I'm sorry, all you need is a team of passionate people. Experts! I'm not at all suggesting we force something upon anyone either. Just communicate to us, the people who made your franchise a $1 billion franchise every year for 10 years or whatever, and show us you just care about it. Please. I'm with this commenter. Let's see some new stuff. Let's see Fate in a sci-fi setting. Let's do it. Let's do a Fate anime where the story is grounded again and not an advertisement aired in theaters that they then sell for $70 on Blu-ray for a film that is just not good. Excuse me, Sony. I thought this was Fate, the series written to be deeply philosophical with both depth that rivals some of the best writing in our history and also action that makes Dragon Ball Z blush and inspire Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer. Not all beloved franchises need to die. All right. This kind of comment nobody likes to read. Just super rude, super disrespectful, and doesn't really help push the discussion in any direction. So I'm not gonna stay in one place with this. I'm actually gonna make a point. If you are at all suspicious of my Type Moon credentials, here we go! I own the Japanese limited edition Tsukihime for Nintendo Switch. Very rare, very pricey. I also own rare English versions of the Fate Stay Night manga that were never even finished and still remain incomplete. I own the Fate cooking game, for Christ's sake. I streamed the Fate cooking game, for Christ's sake. I also own the first 2 limited editions for Heaven's Feel, which I cherish. I've got the secretly underrated Fate Khalid movie, 2 Fate Stay Night 2006 box sets, one of which I'm pretty sure I lost, the first 14 seasons of SpongeBob. I own a Sakura Mato figurine, which I love and cherish because that right there is what Best Girl looks like. I've beaten every route in Fate Stay Night Real Tenua a decade before remastered release when the excuse from Type Moon was, we don't want to translate our visual novels into English because it would get lost in translation and thus isn't possible of ever happening. I own and have seen the Tsukihime anime, which isn't real, it's just a figment of my imagination. Hell, I did a video on it too, so you know I'm crazy. I also did 2 videos on the Tsukihime manga. I've seen most Fate Grand Order anime adaptations and have reviewed and made videos for nearly all of them. I own Fate Extra, and it's goated. Bro, Tsukihime elitism? What are you on about? Do your research. I'm not a Tsukihime elitist, I'm an Arcweight elitist. That white woman might as well be my 9-to-5 job. If anyone ever suggests she is anything less than the best, then you, good sir, my mortal enemy. All of this other stuff is fair though, but I want to hone on calling Camelot and the FGO movies slop because this comment agrees with me. If Camelot were adapted like Babylonia, I'd love it, and that is exactly what I'm kind of saying. Let's get a 24 episode Camelot series. Let's readapt it. Go on, let's do it. Babylonia is awesome, and that is an FGO story. I'm not saying Nasu can't do it, that what he wrote was bad. I'm saying let's not cram an entire arc into 4 hours of movie across 2 heinously priced Blu-rays. Camelot could have been better. That's just the point. That's it. It's a main factor in my entire argument. I'm not saying Camelot in its inception itself, no matter in any form, is bad. I'm just saying, can we do better? This could just be so much better, but they aren't doing it, and why is that? I want to live in a world where they live up to their potential, not just, I don't know, we'll release Camelot, maybe one day Witch on the Holy Night 2, or the Tsukihime movie, let's announce Red Garden and forget about it. Guess there's nothing else we could probably promote. Oh, there's this one game we're releasing this year, Fate Extra Record. Nah, we don't care. Not a thing. No promotion for anything else because we only got Grand Order to promote, baby, the biggest moneymaker in our franchise history, and we got to manipulate those kitties to give. Okay, so that was long-winded, but I hope that answered at least some questions you had while also addressing some I felt were rude and trying to steer that conversation back onto the actual topic and not onto me or their feelings or my feelings. Blech. If you want, we can do something like this every week, but until then, thank you so much for watching the video. Check out all of my fake content in the playlist. To the left, in the middle, is the next fake strange fake video, and to the right is last week's video. Make sure to join my Discord server. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.